Hello, my name is Dr. Lori Wilbur, and it's my privilege to be the director of the MPH core curriculum. On behalf of the PCOR team, I'd like to welcome you to the PCOR 501 for fall of 2016. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce you to some of the features of this course. Specifically, we'll be talking a little bit about why we even have this course, and then about team-based learning, some of the objectives we aim to hit, as well as how the teamwork will work. We'll touch a little bit on the course syllabus, some of the important features there, and then give an overview of the quizzes and how the grades will be weighted between the different aspects of the course. Finally, we'll touch a little bit on how this is a team-taught course and what that will mean for you as a student. So, let's begin with why. There are few things in the world that are not touched by public health, and for that reason, my why is that I teach the MPH core because I believe that public health can change the world, and it can change the world in ways that very few things can. Public health is a part of the fabric of our everyday lives, and it touches us in all of our relationships, in our jobs, in our personal lives. And so that is what I believe about public health and why that is so important to us. The other piece of why we have this course is that you may have heard about T-shaped, what people call T-shaped employees. And what that T-shape means is that the top part of the T is the breadth of a variety of being familiar with a wide variety of things. And so this isn't even just related to your profession, it's just being well versed in a variety of things that are in the world. When I was growing up, I remember a wise relative once told me, read everything that you can, and that will come in handy then when you're trying to accomplish things, when you're going to college, when you have a job. That breadth, that top part of the T is what employers are looking for when they're hiring. The base of the T, the tall part, really represents the depth of knowledge in a specific area, knowledge and skills. And usually in college we think of that, in graduate school we think of that as your major. And so if you're a global health major, then you have that depth in global health. If you're nutrition, you have that depth in nutrition and so forth. So that T-shaped person really has a broad range of knowledge in just about everything they can get their hands on, and they also have a specific skill set that is the depth of knowledge. And so that's the T shape that you see here. A lot of times people ask, what does PCOR stand for? PCOR is spelled P-C-O-R, and it stands literally for Public Health Core. And this is specifically for this class, it's the MPH core, and people will describe it as having integrated topics. People who have taken the class before say that it's team taught, that we use a flipped classroom technology, and that we use team-based learning. And so team-based learning is the thing that I would like to spend a little bit of time on. All of these other things are also true, but the team-based learning is probably going to be the biggest feature of the class if you are taking something that's team-based learning for the first time. So let's move on then to team-based learning. In a traditional classroom, you would expect to have a lecture. That's where you get your basic material. And then you go home and you do your homework and some kind of assignment, maybe activities. And then at some point in the course, you may take an exam or 2 exams, maybe a midterm and a final. And this is kind of how a traditional course goes. In team-based learning, we move those pieces around a little bit. Team-based learning has 3 components that are similar, except they're rearranged. The individual preparation is the the building blocks that you would complete before you come to class. And then on the first class, when you arrive, you take a quiz on that material, and then you move on, once you've taken that quiz, to completing teamwork activities and assignments. And so you'll notice that the in-class part, the teamwork, is really based on completing things prior to arriving at class. And so let's look at each of those three parts individually. So the individual preparation, really these fundamental concepts are the building blocks. And this can involve things such as reading a textbook, watching video lectures. This is where the flipped classroom comes in, the flipped lectures, perhaps using online resources and completing some activities that are based on those. Now in public health specifically, a lot of times you'll see this diagram over here on the right hand side, and what it shows is the yellow circles around the outside are what are considered to be the 5 core areas in public health. Those include biostatistics, epidemiology, environmental health sciences, social and behavioral sciences, and health policy and management. And so we will talk about those 5. They're the bulk of what the CPH exam covers. They are a lot of times those are the primary majors at schools of public health, and those are the big areas that we want to get that T knowledge in, that breadth of knowledge. But then there are also what we consider interdisciplinary or cross-cutting competencies, and those are in communication and informatics, diversity and culture, leadership, professionalism, program planning, public health biology, and systems thinking. And so those cumulatively add up to approximately the same amount as one of the areas, those other areas. And so those cross-cutting areas are also fundamental concepts, but we don't give them quite as much weight. And so the individual preparation that you're doing before class may be in one or more of these particular areas. Now, once you get to class, then you take a quiz. And in team-based learning, we call that a readiness assessment test. And you first take an individual readiness assessment test, or an IRAT, and these in PCOR are typically going to include 16 questions. They are multiple choice. They are single best answer. They are designed to not be multiple. They don't test your knowledge of what you don't know. And so these are supposed to be pretty straightforward based on the material that you learned earlier. Then you will take the exact same quiz, only as a team. And those teams are going to be set up so that you have people in a variety of different majors, variety of different past experiences and skills. And that TRAT, or the Team Readiness Assessment Test, will be the exact same questions, and you need to reach a team consensus before you choose your answer. So then after the quiz, you move on to the teamwork part of the class. And that involves both activities and assignments. It's really designed to hit higher level learning, and it is completed in class. And the thing that a lot of people are concerned about is, how are we going to divvy up the activities? The nice thing about this type of teamwork is it involves thinking, discussing, and deciding. And that team assignment is submitted by the end of class. So it's not something that you're going to be doing a lot of teamwork outside of class. It's all completed within the course of the class. So also related to teamwork is something called helping activity. And this really is a peer evaluation that gives feedback to each of the students on your team about how much they helped you to learn. So you're going to give feedback to your peers, and they're going to give feedback to you about how helpful you were to the success of the team and also to them as individual learners. So let's move on and talk a little bit about the objectives. And so we've talked about why and we've talked about how. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what. And just as a quick review, we completed the individual preparation. That was our topics, our building blocks, came and did our readiness assessment tests, and then moved on to the teamwork. Now, if you think about these kinds of activities in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, you may have heard of Bloom's taxonomy, and it's a kind of a pyramid shape where the basic level learning, the remembering and the understanding really are lower on the pyramid, and then applying that knowledge and analyzing it, evaluating, and maybe even creating something new based on that are built on that basic fundamental information. And it moves in terms of increasing difficulty and complexity from the bottom to the top of the pyramid. That individual preparation that you did, the building blocks outside of class, and then the readiness assessment tests, that really is designed to hit the bottom part of the Bloom's taxonomy. And then the kinds of activities that we do as teamwork really are higher on Bloom's taxonomy. And so you can see that you move from the individual preparation of the topics on the lower level of difficulty in the readiness assessment tests up to higher difficulty with the teamwork and more integration. If we think about that in terms of the kinds of objectives we generally do, there are knowing objectives, things that you know about. Can you remember? Do you understand it? Can you apply it to certain things? And then there are doing objectives, where maybe that also includes applying that knowledge and analyzing and evaluating and creating. And so the doing kinds of things are more like what you're going to be doing out there in the public health workforce. We want you eventually, when you finish this course, to be able to function effectively as a public health practitioner. And so your boss will normally come to you and say, can you do something? Which are these analyzing and creating and applying and evaluating kinds of things. Those activities, those doing activities, are based on you knowing some information about it, remembering things, certain facts, maybe definitions, understanding how to apply those to new situations and that kind of thing. So these two go hand in hand. It's not that one is better than the other or more important, but usually we start with the knowing, and then based on knowing, then we move to doing. So how does that apply to our PCOR objectives? The knowing objectives come earlier, and then doing objectives come later. And so here's somebody who's thinking about possibly becoming more fit, and here's somebody who is actually applying the knowledge of how do I do that. And so if you're learning about a specific activity, maybe you would learn, what muscles you would be using. You might learn how to use proper form, variety of different things you would need to know in order to be able to do planks effectively, maybe a good training regimen, how to build up over time. But then actually doing those planks is what gets you the benefit. So knowing isn't an end-all to itself. Now, I like to think about PCOR as accomplishing two big overarching goals. First of all, we want you to be prepared to pass the CPH exam. We want you to feel confident that you can go into the CPH exam, which is the Certified in Public Health exam, and be able to pass that test. The second thing is we want you to be able to function effectively in the public health workforce. So when you go out into the workforce, you'll be able to function with other people on projects, accomplishing all kinds of wonderful activities and going out and doing good in the world. And so these knowing objectives relate a lot more to the CPH exam, and the doing objectives relate a lot to your ability to be a good public health practitioner. So let's take a look at what some of these doing objectives and knowing objectives would look like for one of the topics. And I've just picked the very first topic. Topic 1 for fall quarter is called Data Sources. And in every single landing page, there are 15 topics altogether. In each landing page for each of those topics, there will be a section called Learning Outcomes. And the learning outcomes will have doing objectives and will have knowing objectives. And remember, the doing objectives really are dependent on you having accomplished the knowing objectives. And so the doing objective may be locate and summarize some existing data. And so you're going to have to do this a lot as a public health practitioner. But being able to locate data and being able to summarize data are dependent on maybe listing sources of existing data, or understanding what the benefits and limitations are to certain data sources so that you can locate good quality data and you can locate relevant data. Maybe even identifying examples and significance of person, place, and time variables. And so you need to know what kinds of variables you're looking for when you're looking for this data, or how you're going to summarize that data. And then also describing the purpose and approach of descriptive epidemiology. So being able to locate and summarize data really depends on having achieved these knowing objectives. So let's talk a little bit about teamwork. Teamwork is something that's going to be a piece of the class. For PCOR, we will be dividing you up into teams of 5 or 6, and the formation of teams really tries to achieve as much diversity as possible in several different areas. First of all, we want you to be diverse in terms of major here at in the School of Public Health. So we don't want a team that has all one major. We've found in the past, then when teams are heavy in one area and are really not well-rounded, they really struggle. Also, to be balanced based on gender. And a third piece is that it's very helpful to have people that have kind of what we consider to be sort of world experience connecting with a variety of different cultures and having experience that way. And a fourth one that's especially important with our online class is really feeling comfortable with technology. And the way we're going to find out about that is to ask you kind of where you feel like you're at. Are you comfortable with technology? Do you feel like you could help others with technology? Or, just being really honest with yourself, maybe that's not a strength of yours. And so we want to make sure that each of our teams are balanced in these different areas. Now, once you become a team, then you will be doing a variety of activities. In these team folders, you will be keeping track of what we consider to be attendance, and attendance for online courses. You'll see what the definition of that is in the course syllabus. You'll also be keeping track of your scores, your individual and team scores on those readiness assessment tests, as well as a variety of other things. And your team folder will obviously be an electronic folder rather than a manila folder, as is shown here. Because you will be working out of Canvas. So these team folders will be something that you'll have more information about as we get going with the class. The next thing that I'd like to touch on really quickly is the course syllabus. And the course syllabus is this magnificent and monstrous document that has all kinds of information about what those topics are, those building blocks, what all the different areas are that you'll be studying in this class, what the quizzes are, how they'll work, which topics are covered in each one, how that attendance is going to be happening, all the policies, how teamwork will be functioning, as well as the people that you'll be interacting with, both the PCOR team and the other students in the class. So take a look at the course syllabus. I'd strongly recommend just reading it from start to finish, carve out a little piece of time and go through that. And that going through the course syllabus is actually going to be important for the next thing that we talk about, which is how the quizzes are going to work. And so on week 2, you're going to have what's considered a practice quiz for the course. This practice quiz will be based on reading the syllabus. So you'll read through the syllabus during week 1, and then on Monday of week 2, you're going to take an individual readiness assurance test. And so we want to assure that you are ready to move on with the rest of the class. So that's why we call it readiness assurance. This quiz that goes over the content in the syllabus does not count towards your grade, so I don't want to scare anybody. We're not trying to get you or make you feel like you're not good enough for this class. But we do want you to do your best. Following the individual readiness assurance test, you'll be taking a team readiness assurance test, and that usually covers about 2 days of time. So you have some time to do this as a team. Obviously, many people will be doing it asynchronously. And then following the individual and the team RAT quizzes, there is an opportunity for team appeals, and those are written team appeals. There is a special form that you'll have in your team folder for the appeals, and that's an electronic form obviously for you since you're in the online course. And if you feel that there was maybe an issue in the grading of the test, or you feel that your answer was a good one, you can appeal that to the PCOR team, and we will consider that appeal. So, a couple more things. A lot of times people want to know, how will the course be weighted? So, the grade weights. And right now, we have not assigned final grade weights. Part of this will depend on the class, you and your classmates, giving your input about how you believe that the weights should be within set criteria that are determined by the instructor. And so there are 3 primary areas: individual preparation, the team performance, and then what we call helping behavior. And the individual preparation really has 2 parts. It has that individual readiness assurance test, the IRAT, as well as some journaling activities that you'll be doing that will be preparing you for one of the team assignments later in the quarter. So both of these are individual preparation, and the minimum weight for that particular section is 20% of the final grade. The team performance is based on the team readiness assurance test as well as the team assignments that you'll be completing, and that also has a minimum of 20% for that particular area. And then finally, the helping behavior, which is that the peer evaluation of each person's contribution, that has a minimum of 20% towards your final. Now, you probably noticed that only adds up to 60%. 20% in each of those 3 areas leaves 40% left over. And so your task as a class is to decide where you want to place that other 40%. Do you want to divvy it up between all 3, or do you want to place part of it in individual and part in team, or all in team, or all in one? So that extra 40% can be placed in a variety of different locations. So finally, a lot of people ask about the fact that this is a team taught course. And as a quick review, with team-based learning, we have the topics, then people take quizzes, the students take the quizzes, and then you work in teams for a portion of that, of the course. And so we have the topics and the quizzes and the teamwork. In a team-taught course, the topics and quizzes really are very similar to any other course. You could pretend that this 5-unit course is really a 1-unit course in biostatistics, a 1-unit course in epidemiology, a 1-unit course in environmental science, a 1-unit course in social and behavioral science, and a 1-unit course in policy and management. And if all we had were topics and quizzes, that's exactly how it would seem. Each of us as instructors have individually prepared this material. If you have questions about a specific area, you should ask that person, that respective instructor for that particular area. That goes for all 15 of the topics and all of the quizzes. The quiz questions are single topic. They're designed to be like the CPH exam questions. And so if all we had were topics and quizzes, then it would be just like we have kind of like tag team teaching. However, the teamwork allows us this great opportunity to bring those 5 areas, biostatistics, environmental, social and behavioral, epidemiology, policy and management, that the teamwork assignments really allow us to show how those different topics are really very much related to each other. And so we have some reading and activities around what we call controversies in public health. And the interesting thing about controversies, and even we've been surprised a little bit by this, is that you can bring up any topic and I can say, oh, well, that's all about biostatistics. And Dr. G will say, oh, well, there's definitely a policy side to that. And Dr. Gleason will say, well, that just has social and behavioral sciences written all over it. And then Dr. Ryan will say, well, that's an environmental health topic. And so we're all, and epidemiology of everything is certainly, there's epidemiology to describe pretty much any controversy that there ever was. So we all see these controversies, and this is how real life is. This is how real public health is, that there are controversies out there in the world, all these public health issues, that this is the reason why we have public health, is to address them, to move forward. But not only these 5 areas, remember how we had cross-cutting areas? We have communication and professionalism and leadership and global health and culture, and all of these other cross-cutting areas are also related to the controversies in public health. And so this really highlights the value of having this kind of a class. This is public health. This is what public health is all about, is taking an issue and really being able to see all these different sides to it and being able to apply all these topics in that T-shaped way, in that breadth of knowledge. Every one of you really needs to have skills in all of these areas in order to be a really effective public health practitioner. So that's our goal for you, is to really be able to show you how all of these areas are related. Thank you for joining me for this topic, and we look forward to having you in the class.